All right. I believe this means we are live. At least I hope so. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, aka Some Gadget Guy, the SGG of this terribly named podcast series, but I'm hoping stuff is actually broadcasting. I'm looking at my preview window in my web browser and it looks like a slideshow. That might be super annoying. So hopefully you can all see the show. I might just be talking to myself for 2 hours. It's great. I'm actually seeing an incredible list of names here in the chat. We'll do just a quick rundown. Tangential Tesseract saying happy December. H2O Taku, Ron Guido, Michael C2. We got Darcy. We got Simon. We got Me6 saying hello, chat. I'm missing some people. We got Team Vry saying evening, folks. We got Azariah saying hold on, I gotta do this. I gotta prep for it. Marvelous, majestic, magnificently merciful, motivational, magnanimous Monday morning Juan and esteemed chat salute. I love it. We got 10 my panadi. I probably messed that up. We got Georgie. We've got some really fun folks. And Jimmy Fire Dragon, of course. We got Jimmy. Hoping everyone here is hydrated. Team Fry is saying the audio and video are a bit choppy. I don't know what's going on with the restream. Like, again, I've got two different windows up and I can see like the actual video looks fine. And then the restream video is all weird and choppy. Yeah, see, I'm like waving and it looks great on my side. And then it looks like a slideshow on the other. The nice thing is that it's mostly just my talking head looking at this camera and then some links that will talk about some of the top tech news stories of the week. So it shouldn't be too bad looking at a static web page. It's great. Georgie, I see Juan in 15 frames per second. I promise you, I've got this capture card going. It's the Orico capture card that does 4K 60. And I know I'm feeding that from my mirrorless at least 60 frames per second. So this is a restream thing. I wish this was something I could troubleshoot. Sadly, alas, I cannot. Hey, everybody, I hope you all had an amazing week last week. If you were in the United States, of course, last week was my favorite holiday of the year. That's the one that I look forward to most, to spend some time with family. We had some crazy family shenanigans happen, and Thanksgiving got moved around, and we had to like road trip suddenly, and it was a really full week, but again, I got to kind of unplug a little bit, take some road tripping through the Southwest, all some of my favorite things, and then eat just an incredible quantity of food. So hopefully last week, if you were in an area that also celebrated Thanksgiving, that you were able to spend a little time, unplug, eat some good food, and hopefully hang out with people who care about you. It's always my wish for you on every day, but especially on the special and the holidays that get to sort of spend that time. And there was something. Oh, and last week we did a podcast on the road, and I'm actually going to skip over a lot of housekeeping. Just my brain is scattered. I finally got back in. We got in yesterday, and it's so funny. You spend a week outside of your office, and just basic things like setting up your podcast become incredibly difficult again. It's really funny how like that doesn't really, you wouldn't think it would matter as much. It just takes you out of your flow. So, yeah, podcast on the road, and I have a post on Patreon, kind of talking about what it was like to try and set that up. I have never sat down and said, "Hey, you know what? Let me come up with a really good streaming solution." Every time I do a podcast remote, it's always something different. Maybe I'm trying something from a phone, maybe I'm trying something from a tablet. This last week, I did it from a laptop. Let me try this for lighting, let me try this for audio. Trying to gut the hotel room, trying to find fast data. It was kind of a trip. So for the first time, I actually kind of spelled out all that out. And over on the Patreon, there's just this little text piece about, hey, this is what it was like, and it was really silly and kind of stupid, and there are still things working with audio. There's no way for me to fix it. Huzzah. So, let me get this. Goat V8, sorry. This is funny. I'm at work and Shopify is down. Not great for the busiest Monday of the year. I got hit literally starting, I don't know, I want to say less than 2 weeks ago. I got deluge of emails from press, press releases and affiliate deals and, oh, we really want to work with you. Don't you want to make a whole huge video talking about our product for free and we'll give you an affiliate link and give your audience 3% off? This was one of the worst Black Friday holiday sale seasons I've ever seen. I avoided pretty much any deals or shopping or anything. I did not run across any really significantly good deals. And the kinds of products that I like to track, almost all of them seemed to be scam adjacent. Like you would go to the page and you'd see, oh, the MSRP is $800 and we're going to sell it for $600. But then you did like just a little cursory searching. It was like $600 back in August. So they raised the price in October so that they could slash the price back for Black Friday. I don't know if anyone found some good deals. Maybe someone was out there shopping and really got a huge deal on RAM because that's all real stupid expensive right now. If you did, drop some links in the chat. The part of me that's kind of like glad we're not trying to, I don't know. To me, it always made me sick that I'd spend all this lovely time with my family. We'd spend all day Wednesday and Thursday cooking. We'd eat Thanksgiving dinner, and then some members of my family would be like, "Okay, well now I got to go camp out in line at a Best Buy." Instead of just like enjoying the evening, maybe going to bed early or taking a nice walk, they'd be out there like, "Well, they're gonna do doorbusters in about 4 hours," and I always hated that. My favorite holiday of the year is Thanksgiving, where we give thanks and we appreciate those around us and we appreciate what we have and we appreciate our food. And now it's time to buy, 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 buy. What we do in America, it just drives me crazy. So this year, no one, no one was lit up about buying stuff. It made me so happy. Like Black Friday was a total failure for my friends and family adjacent to me. And it just it warmed the cockles of my cynical heart. So let me take a quick sip of coffee here. There are a couple comments here. I do want to get to them. Hold on one sec. Tangential Tesseract. My thanks for last week. All the new emails in my inbox helping me to unsubscribe to a bunch of e-tailers that I never signed up for alerts. Yeah, that's rough. That was another one too. Like I've been getting a lot of, hey, don't you want to cover our athletic equipment? And I know it's like PR who just bought a mailing list and like added me to it. We love what you do on channel in brackets. Don't you want person in brackets to cover our new treadmill? And you're like, oh no, I can easily just block this one. JGJ saying that El Jefe did a fan stream on Black Friday. That could have been fun. I was spending time with family and then also driving through the Southwest. We just don't have reliable internet. I really do unplug for the days that I'm traveling just because it's like I'll hit a patch of like actual LTE high speed and then just be like, no, no, I'll have nothing for a half hour after that. Um, Oh, Michael C. Yeah, the Porta Pro deal is the only one that tickled me at all, but it was sold out by the time I discovered it. I suppose if you wanted like a cheap pair of earbuds, sometimes they'll hit a low. We've been talking to Lex, just I forget what it was that we were watching. And there was like this idea, this like surge of like Thanksgiving shopping. It was an old TV show. I can't remember what it was. Oh, it's gonna drive me crazy. And we had to explain to her like this used to be like a big thing, but of course, the companies involved in these kinds of Black Friday sales kind of ruined it for themselves. And now we look at doorbusters. Oh, I can get a new TV for like $100, and we know it's gonna be garbage. And that's one of the things that like I think consumers actually have just gotten, if not savvier, they're at least exhausted by it. and so they're not seeking that stuff out as much. It's just normalizing the idea that you're going to spend a little less on a TV that isn't as nice and that will break sooner. I think that message is finally sinking in to a larger group of consumers. Oh, this is actually pretty good. Team Vry, the only Black Friday deal I got was a Xiaomi monitor that went down from 100 quid to 75 pound. Quality's pleasant though. That's not bad. Again, that's a solid deal. Uh, Especially if it's like something you were shopping that you wanted. Tan May saying, "What kind of marketer thinks that's a good idea?" Unfortunately, in my line of work, it's just shotgun blast now. There is so little, oh, we really want to work with you and we want to build a long term relationship, and you should just do all this work for free because the only reason you exist to talk about things on YouTube is so that you can sell our products. Just every day, I get incredible amounts of garbage communication like that, and I'm just deleting and spam, deleting and spam, deleting and spam, deleting and spam, and it has to work. There you can see on YouTube and on TikTok and on Instagram, all of these things are just like page after page after page, scrolling and scrolling and scrolling of people just hawking stuff. And I guess that's what social media is now. Oh, you guys have some really good. I'm sorry, I'm going through some of these comments here. I bought the Pixel dual USB-C charger and a weight vest for Black Friday. Ramron, pretty good. Who is that? Europe understands Black Friday very wrong. Raise the price 20%, and on Black Friday, join Black Friday deals at a 15% discount. Oh, Georgie, that is not unique to Europe. Unfortunately, that is absolutely the vibe that we have here in the United States too. Again, I feel like there should be rules, or at least some kind of regulatory interaction when it comes to publishing the price of a sale, but you raised the price before you put it on sale. I don't know. I don't want to make everything political, but to me that sounds like something that we used to do. So, let's jump in. Happy holidays. It's December. Jimmy Fire Dragon was we were all kind of shocked in the chat. Like it's already December. 2025 has been the longest decade of my life, and yet it's screaming by at a rapid pace of just absolute insanity, and it's rough keeping up. I have things on my desk that I am still going to shoot videos about and talk about that I got back in like July. It just completely gets away from you. How like, oh yeah, I've got this, I've got some little notes set up, I'm gonna put a script together, and then it's like 4 months later. I don't know how that could happen. Oh, Bionic Scoop saying, "One, what's up, Scoop?" And Ramron saying, "In Sweden, we have laws for raising the prices before you need to tell what the original price was." I swear we used to have some kind of regulatory uh, bumper guards on things like that here in the United States, but I guess that doesn't matter anymore. We care so much about consumers and the economy, but we're trying to wreck all of their jobs and not give them money so that they can't buy anything. It's a real winning situation that we're in right now. Let me take a sip of coffee. We're gonna jump directly into some news. Because by the end, when we start getting into the hardware section, and again, if there's anything that the chat wants to lead into also, just some really interesting updates to situations that we've been in for a bit. Let me just coffee hydrate for a second, and then we can get into some links proper, and then hopefully the stuttery frame rate here won't be as as distracting. Oh yeah, DDR5 may as well be a unicorn coming from PP Joker. Some of those prices are outrageous. They're getting real bad. All right, I'm gonna kill this, but I do want us to start off. So talking about like memory prices and AI, there were a couple political stories that kind of broke over the last week through this week, and I'm going to shelve them. I'm coming back just like I said, a little foggy and a little Swiss cheese holes in my brain. But this one kind of popped up. This is from theconversation.com. And it was just an interesting article to start off what we're going to discuss with component pricing and with AI strategies. And I don't think anyone here is going to be shocked. In fact, I think this is going to confirm for a lot of people how they already feel about things like AI. So this is from the conversation written up by Shiri Melumad. Melumad. I don't know where the accent is on that last name, and I apologize, Shiri. Excuse me. Associate Professor of Marketing, University of Pennsylvania. Learning with AI falls short compared to old-fashioned web search. Now, I am not shocked by this headline. I don't think anyone in this chat is going to be shocked by this headline, but I but I did want to excuse me, I did want to highlight just a couple paragraphs from this article. Since the release of ChatGPT in late 2022, millions of people have started using large language models to access knowledge, and it's easy to understand their appeal. Ask a question, get a polished synthesis, and move on. It feels like effortless learning. However, a new paper I co-authored offers experimental evidence that this ease may come at a cost. When people rely on large language models to summarize information on a topic for them, they tend to develop shallower knowledge about it compared to learning through a standard Google search. Co-author Jin Hu Yun and I, both professors of marketing, reported this finding in a paper based on 7 studies with more than 10,000 participants. Most of the studies used the same basic paradigm. Participants were asked to learn about a topic, such as how to grow a vegetable garden, and were randomly assigned to do so by using either an LLM like ChatGPT or the old-fashioned way by navigating links using a standard Google search. No restrictions were put on how they used the tools. They could search on Google as long as they wanted and could continue to prompt ChatGPT if they felt they wanted more information. Once they completed their research, they were then asked to write advice to a friend on the topic based on what they learned. Okay, so I kind of love this because I'm an old, right? Cranky old man who loves to walk out on my front porch and yell at them crazy kids to get their AIs off my lawn. Um, I am very not impressed with the incredible amount of time, energy, resources, compute power, electricity, the generation of pollution that have gone into these language models. I think we've taken something that is very useful in a narrow application and we're trying to force it into every product where it does not belong. And it is horrific to see how much of our economy, how much of our stock market, how it's impacting jobs. This is all bad. When we start talking about learning, last year we went through this problem at my daughter's school where she's in a Spanish immersion program and one of the teachers made some passing comment about to the kids that if they get stuck on something, they could use Google Translate. The kids took that to mean just use Google Translate for everything. So my daughter would get home and she would have a little homework and she would just have like split screen on her little school laptop, the assignment and Google Translate, and she was just cutting and pasting and cutting and pasting and cutting and pasting and there was no recognition, no understanding, there was no struggle, there was no context clues. It was just rote mechanical behavior. And all the parents in the class actually had to have a conversation with the faculty and the teachers that like we know you didn't mean this. You need to make this more explicit so that the kids understand what the boundaries are. Because the whole point of us putting our kid in a Spanish immersion program is they will learn Spanish, not just how to cut and paste from Google Translate. I could have done that at home on my own. Me and my terrible New Mexican norteño accent, like way we speak Spanglish in New Mexico, I could have handled that academic load very easily. Now let's take that a step further. when an AI takes a bulk of data, it is actually pretty good at sort of whittling down to just like a couple key points. I've played with this on device like my Robocalla tablet. There's a little app on there that uses the MPU and it can chew through hours of language and then kind of just dump out like a little bit of a summary. Just sort of the bullet points, the cliff notes. Not even the cliff notes, literally just bullet points on what was in this hours of audio. There's something we lose. I feel one of the things we lose is our ability to filter and to assign value. This is my hypothesis. This is not a part of their study. But the reason why learning happens and learning takes on sort of a deeper understanding of a topic is because you do have to assign your own value to the bits of information that kind of pass through. You might have already known a little bit about soil, but then you'd need to learn about the sort of the water and nutrients of different plants if you were looking at a garden, right? If the AI squishes all of that information for you and pre-filters what you would have had to sift through, you're going to read through shorter period of time, less discerning, less cultivating, and you're just going to kind of go with that final answer. To me, it's not very much different than what my daughter was doing, learning Spanish by cutting and pasting everything into Google Translate. There was no struggle to understand some of the things that might have more value to her and less value to her. There was no internal conflict or struggle with information that forces the brain to kind of prioritize different pieces of information. She just kind of ran with it. And the reason why I feel this way, and the way I'm sure no one here is going to be too surprised, when I was a kid, you could very clearly see the difference in student performance from those of us like in an English class. We're assigned to read a book and do a book report on it. And the teachers were very, very vocal about there will be things on tests about this book that will not be in a Cliff Notes, right? Cliff Notes was supposed to be the series of little pamphlet books that you would get so that while you read the main book, there were little things in there that helped you understand the book better. But the Cliff Notes quickly became this tool that students could use to just abbreviate the entire understanding of the book. Maybe you didn't even read the book, you just read the Cliff Notes. So teachers would have to do this escalation where, okay, now I'm going to put things in the test that are not in the Cliff Notes. Think about it, like a teacher would have to read the Cliff Notes, then read the book, or maybe they were already familiar with the book, and then find things that weren't in the Cliff Notes just to see if a student had actually read the book. I got burned on that once in junior high, where I was really busy. I was in a bunch of activities and band and sports. And then I got to this report and like, I just can't finish this book. And I had the Cliff Notes. So I paged through it, finished it. I got a terrible grade on, on the test for that book. But it was like all I could do to kind of hang on. So if we're already using AI as a summary tool, there is a time and place for an AI to cut out all of the garbage. Think about how many meetings in corporate America really could have been emailed, right? All you did was stand up there and read from the slides on a PowerPoint presentation. You could have just sent me the PowerPoint presentation because I can read in my brain faster than you can read out loud. In a situation like that, an LLM can be very useful. We're just trying to get to the action item as efficiently as possible, and this hour-long meeting was not the way to do it. Totally appreciate that. But that's not an aspect of learning. That's not an aspect of challenging your brain, of trying to create situations where there's struggle, like literally working your brain like a muscle. There's nothing inherent to the AI slop that we get that is going to help a student. Instead, it's really going to have them coast, go training wheels, and then it's going to be an even bigger internal conflict when they run into a situation that does require more struggle. I see this with my daughter a lot. She is a very clever little kid. She doesn't really know how to struggle in grade school. She's very quick to pick up on new concepts, and then she thinks she's an expert, and then she's kind of shocked and emotionally upset when she gets something wrong. Or she runs into a new topic that is a little more advanced. She doesn't know how to muscle her way through it. She didn't instantly just get it right at the beginning. She just shuts down. So we've got to teach her, like, this is how you struggle. This is how you wrestle with something. This is how you chew it up in your brain and try to piece it out and get there, especially with concepts like math. We now have her in a little like math, it's called Math Olympiads. We have her in a little math program, and they're starting to introduce like actual algebra. And you're like, this is great because she's never seen anything like this. She doesn't even know what the reasonable answer should look like. Like there's a word problem and they've got distance and time and acceleration and averages and balanced and primes and factors. What is it that they're asking so that you know what the answer should at least look like? Are they giving you distance and expecting you to answer in time? That idea is kind of blowing her mind right now. And there's a lot of struggle, there's a lot of conflict. AI robs us of that. And I talked about this, I think last week or maybe the week before, about how AI gets this stuff wrong. So one of the word problems that she had in this little math Olympiad thing, I wanted to see, I put it into Gemini. And Gemini gave me the absolute wrong answer to factoring down primes, and then caught itself and did the steps of the problem, and then got the answer wrong again. And then in summary said, "Oh, my previous two answers were incorrect. Here's the real right answer." So at some point, Google had to leave Gemini. It had all of this data on what was in the question, but the large language model can't understand words. It's just arranging tokens. So then at some point, it had to go out to another subsystem that was likely hard coded for math. And that's when it finally got the right answer. So that's not AI. That's just going back to the old tools that we had for like search and math problems. So anyway, I'm going to be linking this. I think it's absolutely worth checking out, just kind of like the summary on a study like this, because it's just we need to kind of keep putting pressure on where are these tools appropriate. And for the vast majority of AI situations that I think we've run into, these tools don't help. They not only get in the way, they not only cause erroneous data to end up in your work, but then they slow you down on things like just learning a new concept. And that to me is one of the most magical feelings in the world that I wish I had on a more regular basis. Excuse me. Being in my 40s, I am so tickled when I'm struggling with something, I see something new, I try to plug it in, it doesn't really work, and then something clicks and I got it. I love that light bulb moment, and I don't get that very frequently. And that's another thing AI takes away from me. I'm paying someone to have light bulb moments on a machine that I don't get to participate with anymore. So, first of all, this browser is going real slow. There's something happening. I think I might need to just like gut my PC and start fresh because again, I'm running into weird little stumbling blocks and stuff. Okay. Pup on Tech. I missed you guys. Missed you too, Pup on Tech. Always glad to see you in the chat. From Michael C. Yeah, honestly, it's AI. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, honestly, AI companies can literally ruin the entire PC computing industry for years at a time for regular consumers. Regulators need to step in. It's an effing joke. Um, and again, he goes on to talk about like crypto and stuff like that too. It's just the next investor bait situation, right? It's not a scam, but it does kind of feel like rug pull. From Tanmay, funny thing is now the data centers have run out of electricity sources to power those servers, so the prices of utilities are going up next. That is absolutely wrecking people out on the East Coast right now as temperatures start to drop. Man, your energy bills are getting higher and higher. Oh, from Me6. Thank you for talking so much about fast charging in OnePlus. I now own both the watch and a phone, and I've been loving it. Hey, I'm so glad that you enjoy the phone. I still feel, and we're going to talk about the OnePlus 15 later on in the show. It is still like the number one jaw-dropping aspect of getting someone to try out a OnePlus. Is like you thought your iPhone charged fast. It did not. You thought your Galaxy got great battery life. It did not. it is such an empowering feeling. It's like I know I can run this phone for 2.5 days on a single charge, and then I only need to plug it in for 30 minutes to keep going. Oh, Team Vry, taking it back. I missed stuff like this. Man, I remember going through my grandpa's encyclopedia collection to do my homework back in the day. We had, and it was older, and so some of the stuff was already out of date, but it was so great. A to Z, just books talking about random facts. And again, so one of the things that we did, like after my daughter was struggling in Spanish and she was using Google Translate for everything, is we made her get a paper Spanish to English dictionary so that she would have to learn like how to look up words in a book. And I think that helped tremendously with her vocabulary. I think we underestimate good struggle, like stuff that it's like eating your vegetables, and that sucks. And I know I'm old and I'm doing the "Oh, well, it's gonna build character," but it does. And I think like we've kind of taxed teachers with doing all that when really that's a parent's job. And then we're kind of surprised that students are struggling, falling behind now, but we're not teaching them the good struggle. That's kind of disappointing. Oh, from PP Joker, yeah, you get AI generated crap each time you use Google search half the time now. And it's like half of your results are like AI summaries and stuff, and that doesn't help. And that's also theft. See, that's the other problem I have with this kind of summarization is Google taking the data created by actual humans, pulling it off of the web pages that they built so that data had some place to live, summarizing it for the user so that user never needs to leave the google.com and Google can serve them more ads. And that to me should be the F illegal. That is IP theft in the most egregious sense of the word. If I took a whole bunch of Google intellectual property and put a whole bunch of ads on it and just copied it off of Google's website, I would get a cease and desist. These little links, completely insufficient. Oh, we totally cited the source. No, you put a little read more, and then you put the link at the bottom of like 2 pages worth of information that the user probably hasn't engaged with to that point. That is absolutely abhorrent. Just completely terrible. Hold on one second, I'm taking a drink of coffee. From Tanmay. Yeah, Cliff Notes were there to revise. Um, Lots of people would read the Cliff Notes and just go with that as as like the only source of information. I had friends that would get terrible grades, but they'd finish their reports, and it's just funny. It's just funny how those kinds of trends change. We've got tech bros now trying to convince us like you don't need to learn anything. You'll just let the AI do all the thinking for you. And that's a really scary dystopian situation to be in. Oh man. Sorry, you got lots of comments going on here. I've got to kind of at least catch and move on. Oh no. Simon says, Hypno says they've even started doing AI pimple popping videos on YouTube. They are Cronenberg-esque nightmare fuel. One, I can't imagine. Two, screw you for making me try to imagine what that looks like, Simon. That's terrible. But that was the other. We had this long conversation with my wife and I when we were driving through Arizona, and she's not a tech enthusiast in the way that I genuinely like to read up on tech news, tech business, and tech regulation. To me, that trifecta really gives you a like a total package view of everything that's happening with our favorite little hobbyist gadgets and geeks and gizmos, right? So I started describing what some of my concerns were, especially with like adult content, because we know that Facebook is running into some type of generative AI that will enable lonely dudes to make their own adult materials. I'm trying to be very self-selective and cagey about my language here. I'm trying not to go too deep. We know they're training models on terabytes of adult content. And they're probably just going to unleash that at a weaponized scale across their entire platform. I've seen very little to suggest that Facebook is capable of delivering good safety rails on any new technology that they launch. It's going to sort of launch out there, and then there will be some kind of tacit admission like, oh, maybe we went a little too far. And then they'll pull something back, but it really won't be. As long as it starts to be normalized within a certain community, it's just stuff that's going to stay. And so I was trying to explain to my wife like why this is, and she's got very strong feelings about like adult content and adult media. But to me, there are situations that you can point to where actual humans and actual producers have run into society taboos, and then the industry has sort of self-corrected to make sure that a potential harm doesn't happen again. None of it's perfect. It's definitely problematic. There are lots of instances of abuse in that kind of industry, but the industry will at some point recognize, oh no, we went too far, and humans could maybe face jail time. Let's walk this back. There will be no such guardrails with AI materials like that. So it's really scary stuff that we're running headlong. We're trying to prevent states from enacting regulations or any kind of protections against AI. Our federal government, for some reason, is trying to embolden these kind of tech bros in this mission, in this endeavor. And we know that the next stages of this, we need to find profitability. I genuinely think this is going to be something we see over the next year where these services have been very like, oh, we're PG, we're totally safe, don't worry. You can kind of force our models to make something a little risque, and then they're just going to take the full mask off. You're a lonely dude and you want to like deep fake someone doing something obscene, go to town. I mean, technically no, but this is the next phase of the models that we're pushing out. Because the other situation that is going to be really frustrating in this world of AI. Hold on, I'm going to close some of my other browser tabs too. Let me screen share this as our transition. That was a really long-winded transition. Coming by way of Notebook Check, written up by Marius Mueller. ChatGPT may soon include advertising. Until now, ChatGPT has been entirely ad-free across both its free and paid versions. That may soon change, according to Tibor Blaho, lead engineer at AIPRM and known for sharing public code leaks. On November 29th, he posted on Twitter about findings in the Android beta code of ChatGPT that point to possible ad integration. From Tibor, new references to an ads feature, bizarre content, search ad, and search ads carousel. So here's the other thing that's hilarious about where we are with AI. I think this is really funny. Think about every cycle of cool free stuff on the internet, especially through the Web 2 era. We started getting into social media. People didn't have to make their own website. They could go to one platform, have a page on that platform that was coded for them, and then they could populate a feed of just scrollable information, right? So that starts totally fun and it's free and there aren't a bunch of commercials or advertisements. There aren't a whole bunch of things. It's just this really cool new service and you get to use it and you get to hang out with your friends and we love it. And then they start incorporating ways to monetize. That was sort of the web 2.0 flavor of build up something, make it cool, then figure out how to make money on it. So we're still kind of early days in this rush to force AI into consumers' hands. This is the beginning phase of trying to popularize language models for consumer use. So think about where we were with social media, free. It was free. Well, AI can't sustain a free push. Think about how unbelievably expensive it is to get sort of a ground level AI service or platform operating and running, especially since it's all cloud based. So, yes, there are free versions of ChatGPT, but they have to be wildly limited. It's like the sample you get is minuscule, and you have to jump through hoops and get tokens, and there's already this like monetization behavior built in at the beginning. This is where the cool new thing used to be free so that you would think it was cool and then they would ratchet up. But look at pricing on Gemini Pro and ChatGPT Pro and all of these other services. They are already wildly expensive per user. And this is the beginning, get them hooked on something cheap ramp that we see for AI. So we're already running into, we're going to have to increase the price of a subscription. We're going to have to start tacking on other additional fees. And of course, what really moves a huge chunk of the internet is advertising. So if you liked just kind of popping in on ChatGPT and doing a few little wacky things, and then, okay, well, I've used up my free tokens and that's fine and everything's groovy. No. See, when OpenAI started doing Gen AI video, we see that they're probably spending tens and tens and tens of dollars per user for little video clips that get created for completely disposable entertainment. That's not a sustainable business model. This AI push has never been a grown up, we really have a business plan, this is how we'll make money kind of business model. It has always been, let's steal all of the information and IP so that we can train these models, and then let's get people to think it's cool, but we're still charging them at the beginning because even then, it's just way too much of a deficit. We're just incurring humongous losses, and there's no way to runway this with like investor money. Microsoft can dump $10 billion into OpenAI, and that barely covers their last fiscal half year's uh, server fees. Like they're taking money in to pay off their previous debts with no example of how to build from here. We talked last week. People at Google, the head of AI at Google, is saying we need to double compute capacity every 6 months. And how are they going to pay for that? Well, by a Gemini Pro subscription. That's not going to pay for a 1,000 times increase in compute capacity over the next 4 years. Think about how much compute power Google currently wields. And the head of their AI division says they need 1,000 times more in 4 years. And you're going to pay for that with like little ads on your search results. And also, you could get a 1 terabyte AI plan for like $200. And that'll pay for 1,000 times more compute capacity. If you're a shareholder and you're really heavily invested in AI stocks, I am not an investment resource. You should definitely not take anything I say as actual investment strategies or advice, but I think you're a moron. Oh, the S&P is doing great until it's not. And then, boy, it's going to get real bad. But don't worry. If you're worried about revenue and OpenAI finally becoming in any way revenue positive, like they might actually make a profit, they're going to start serving ads on a service that is basically just a distraction or an entertainment. And that always goes well for people using those free services. Like, oh, I was really into this, and now I have to go through an ad carousel of bizarre content. BAZAAR, like to sell things. Because that's really gonna move the needle on interacting more with AI. I hate that in some circles that will probably work. In the same way that TikTok is now just a glorified influencer marketplace. Sure, there will be a group of people who love getting AI slop content just fed to them in a never-ending scroll, and then they can also buy things. I know I'm old because I've never been able to bring myself to just purchase directly through a social media site. Even the ads I serve on YouTube, I have almost no control over. And they say, do you want to link a product? I'm like, sure, I guess. Who does that? Who watches a video about $1,000 phone and then says, I don't care where I buy it from. There's a link to buy it on YouTube. It could be Walmart. I'll just click it here because it's so gosh darn convenient. And I just want to take some YouTube executives and just shake them until they understand how they're ruining their platform. But I'm sure in the short term, they're making a grip of money. Like YouTube as an internal industry inside of Google is making a grip of money now. YouTube is actually very, very profitable now. And it's because of all of these absolutely terrible business practices. So what do I know? It's um really really it's really not great. Lots of comments on this one too. Hold on, let me scroll back just a bit. There was Simon telling me about AI pimple popping. Yeah, for Michael C. It's just such an incalculable environmental cost to have that included on every Google search by default, and then it's used as data. Oh, look at all the people that are so into AI search. And you're like, no, they're not seeking out AI search. They're just going to google.com. So they're using more AI search because that's what Google is shoving in front of them. It is, again, it's a lie to try and impress shareholders on the future of this strategy. Tangential Tesseract. I still have family and friends that are surprised when I point out how social media is intentionally making us angry and sad. Getting them to understand issues with AI content is a whole new mountain. But thankfully, you can kind of dovetail that. Look at what social media companies are doing to make you miserable. Why do you think AI made by these same companies is going to do better? They have the same mission. They have the same, like one of the major platforms is going to be Facebook and their llama models. You can point them. Everything about Facebook has gotten really poopy. Why do we trust this will be different at a significantly higher investment cost? We know it's going to get worse. This isn't like, oh, I just have like a feeling. Like this is this is the cycle they go through on every new product. From 10 May, there is plenty of generative adult content already. Adult industry is ahead of everyone to adopt new tech. Private players are already ahead of this curve. So the thing that I want to point out, and like why I was talking to my wife about that, we've been talking about this for a couple years now on the podcast. Things like those really nasty situations where a ring of high school aged boys are found making deep fakes of their classmates. They are unwittingly participating in the distribution of child abuse materials, right? So we aren't doing a good job of educating young people on what computering really is, because this is like to them what it might have been like for a high schooler in the 70s to find a magazine that their dad has. They're treating it with the same kind of levity, but they don't realize the legal ramifications of what they're doing because the platforms are making that so easy. That's on the shadier side of AI right now. Every time one of those websites pops up and oh, you can make a you can take a photo of someone and the AI will try to remove clothing, right? Those sites get shut down. We actually are playing whack-a-mole with that kind of distribution, with that kind of content generation. When we start seeing a major organization like Facebook start engaging in that kind of generative AI, because we know these companies have also been consuming a copious amount of adult material to train new generative AI models, that mainstreams a really terrible business practice. It's something I've been trying to figure out if there's a way that I can make a video about it, because like in the robotics industry, we started to have these like philosophical debates on like what's appropriate, and maybe you come up with a companion robot. But what if that companion robot looks really young, right? There's this ethical conversation that needs to be had about what do we mainstream and what do we normalize, and how do we put up safety safety rails on things that society really does find objectionable. And the AI bros at these major tech companies really aren't going to do that. They're going to run headlong into finding any type of new consumer interaction that they can find because it'll hopefully generate more revenue. And then maybe they'll make some kind of token effort to say, oh, well, this got a little out of hand. We're going to wheel this back. Do you think Elon Musk is going to put guardrails on Grok making terrible media? I don't think they will. I don't think Zuckerberg's going to do it. I think Google might at least try to put the face of this is responsible AI. But then if some of their video or content creation tools have some holes in them that people can utilize that stuff to do gross things with it, well, I mean, we've put up these barriers and that's not how our model should have been used. So are you going to fix it? Oh, we're definitely examining how we can make this safer for everyone on our platform. Nah, that means no. That's a nah, brah. We making cash. All right, let me see. There were a couple other comments I saw, and I kind of want to get through. From Ron Guido. Just what we all wanted, having touch ads on something we didn't want in the first place. Yay! And from Fat 8893, even Google has now limited the number of free Gen AI for Nano Banana Pro. It it was never viable. And they couldn't on ramp it the same way that they've on ramped every other thing that has come out on the internet that started out for free or really, really low cost and then got ratcheted. After that company started running out of invest cash, then they would squeeze their consumers and their advertisers for more money at the expense of the users and the advertisers. So they told their shareholders they were making more money. From Tanmay, well, it is currently making money from selling solutions to a problem they created. So yeah, it's pretty great. And Fat 8893 also kind of commenting on what we've been chatting about. Speaking about OpenAI, the huge amount of Sora brain rot out there is beyond belief. Because again, they just weaponized and unleashed an insane amount of compute power at creating stupid slop. So yeah, there's gonna be a surge of like interest in, oh, what if this, or I could make something wacky, but it's immediately gonna dovetail into bad political, bad racist, bad sexist types of content. Because the people that really kind of live in there are going to, an order of magnitude, use those platforms more than people that are just sort of uh, generally curious and then kind of get on with their day. Those types of platforms are going to be utilized to an extreme degree by extreme people. We need a better system to verify good information because this whole like free speech absolutist libertarian ideal of, well, you fight the bad information with the good information. I can't upload good information to the same degree that I can download bad information. Literally, it's asymmetrical warfare, and it's against. Look at how choppy my stream is right now. This could be a broadband connection issue. This could be restream as an issue. I don't know, but I literally can't make and upload good information to the same degree that everyone around me can download absolute crap. Literally, our system right now, especially here in the United States, is asymmetrical. So this notion like, oh well, you can't censor people. I don't believe Russian bots making AI slop deserve free speech protections. But we can't infringe on. Yeah, we can. There is no First Amendment exclusion for weaponized disinformation from a country that is hostile, especially like as it's being generated in a completely autonomous fashion. I cannot engage in a legal contract with an AI bot. Oh, Michael, this is funny too. I actually cut this story from my rundown because I was just going to get even crankier than I am now. Come on, click on. There we go. Now show the comment. There we go. Uh, Michael C2 saying, yeah, but literally NVIDIA is the only company that's making money off AI. Shareholders are making money off perceived value and valuations, but NVIDIA is the only one that's actually profitable on AI. And I cut the story this week where um, Jensen came out in his cool dude bro leather jacket. He's imploring more, especially NVIDIA employees, but just generally as a call to action around the tech industry, that you really got to use more AI, guys, because it's this really awesome, valuable tool that people love using, and yet every CEO at every major tech corporation is mandating that people use more AI in their workflow, which to me sort of screams the emperor has no clothes. All of the claims about this are is it's so useful and it's so powerful and it helps you out so much, then people would just use it. But why is it that NVIDIA's CEO is out there imploring his own employees, you gotta use more of this, guys? Because it's crap. So yeah, NVIDIA is making grips of cash right now because they're selling most of the pickaxes for this gold rush. But eventually, people get tired of trying to find the gold and they move on to some other investment opportunity. And yet again, the people that invested all the money in Nvidia hardware are going to be left holding the bag, and then they're going to need bailouts, and it gets real gross. It gets real gross real fast. So it's why I keep hoping that we'll start looking at, hey, we've got these data centers, we could use them for other things too. We don't need to just keep shoveling this AI crap as the main reason why we're building yet another resource consuming monstrosity. This could go into scientific research. This could go into, I know they ostensibly do that, but I more directly just making this a much bigger part of why you would invest in a Google is to say, like, hey, this is infrastructure that the entire country is using, education is using, scientific research is using, the military is using, instead of, well, what a Gemini Nana Banana. Isn't that funny? They called it Nana Banana. Bananas are funny. Like, what do you grow up? Stop infantilizing infrastructure. But it's so wacky. Isn't it so wacky? It's OpenAI and it's ChatGPT and it's a cute little name and it's a Nana Banana. It's a llama model. Isn't that funny? It's a llama model. And for Twitter, they grok things. I hate it. I hate it so much. Because of all of this, as we look at all of the insane resources that are getting hoovered up by these companies, let me see if I can get my screen sharing again. This is getting wacky. Coming by way of Ars Technica, written up by Andrew Cunningham, GPU prices are coming to Earth just as RAM costs shoot into the stratosphere. From the article, it's not a bad time to upgrade your gaming PC. Graphics card prices in the 2020s have undulated continuously as the industry has dealt with pandemic and AI-related shortages. But it's actually possible to get respectable mainstream to high-end GPUs like the Radeon RX 9060 and 9070 series, or NVIDIA's RTX 5060, 5070, and 5080 series for at or slightly under the suggested retail prices now. But then they go down to show this cute little bar graph, not bar graph, this cute little chart detailing the 2 to 3 time price increases when it comes to RAM. From Patriot Viper Venom, 16 gigs in a 2x8 configuration, more than doubling in price, to the Team Delta RGB 64 gig, going from around $200 to now selling for $700. It's DDR5 6400, so it's faster than that 6000. And again, we are ratcheting resources, even in a consumer space, like just getting RAM for a gaming PC. I don't understand who would pay $700 for a 2 by 32 gig kit of RAM. And I've spent a lot of money on building PCs and stuff. And that just seems like really extreme. So of course, like we might frame this as like, oh, well, this is like the enthusiast space. So of course you have to spend more on these because they're enthusiast parts. But this is rippling through the entire tech industry now. We're looking at the prices of, like for example, mini PCs. Minis Forum just came out with like an update to their, I think it's called the IT15. Um, that was a really great mini PC sub $1,000, but now in the same configuration where it comes with 32 gigs of RAM and a 2 TB SSD, now it's well over $1,000. We're going to start seeing all of these little permutations of component pricing where, sure, now you might be able to get an RTX 5070 for slightly under MSRP, but that's still much higher a price than what those GPUs used to cost like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We've seen that spike in MSRP. And also kind of in the positioning where what was a 70 series, a 5070, 4070, 3070, etc., has kind of gotten watered down a bit. So the price to performance and the benefit of going to that 70 series card seems a little less consumer friendly at the same time that the MSRPs have climbed higher, and then the prices at retail are higher than the MSRP, just so that it feels kind of good that now you can get a GPU at MSRP. But that's not as good a buy as it used to be in years past. So then add on to that, now our memory and our storage, that's all getting more expensive. As we're seeing the population of companies trying to invest in their own local AI systems, they're also snatching up components, servers, product, RAM, and then the massive corporations are going to these like the silicon industry, and they're trying to tie up production so that they can get maybe a slightly better deal on buying terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of RAM, and then what's left for retail is sold at a radically inflated cost. And this is going through almost every single component. Just, oh, it's a little nice that GPU prices kind of came back down to earth. The MSRPs were always a problem. At least now we can get them at MSRP. So Ars Technica always does a great job of linking. There are multiple links talking about this industry from 2020, what we went through during the pandemic, the silicon shortages. We were literally talking about how constrained it was to get good sand so that we could make new components, and how that has snowballed into the situation that we're in today. Infrastructure is trying to tie up every piece and part and component because that's sort of the last gasp of this AI bubble. Oh, well, if we can make this more efficient and we can make this more powerful, and then we can do this with our models, and then we can do this with our data centers, we could maybe double our compute power over a year in the same footprint, in the same infrastructure. You're like, that's cool. But that also means you're going to spend $700 on 64 gigs of RAM. That's not cool. That's bad. Oh, but then your AI models will get a little faster, and no one cares. I'm trying to do that Homer Simpson thing, like, oh, that's good, but no, it also comes with monosodium glutamate. I don't know. That's bad. Okay, that's bad. Like, there's no good bad here. It's just all kind of bad. Michael C. Yeah, RAM is not an enthusiast part. It's super basic, and they've basically made all consumers incapable of building a PC with unreasonable investment for the foreseeable future. Every time we start to get a little ahead on one part of this, it's like we're just playing a shell game of now what else is going to be expensive, right? It makes me sad because, like, oh, maybe if you had stockpiled some RAM last year, then you could build your gaming PC this year with a 5080. Woohoo! That would have been much more economically viable. It's dumb. It's really dumb. And we keep pouring, businesses keep pouring money into these platforms and into these corporations and not getting anything out of it. And Tenmei, they have recreated the pandemic effect and are writing the artificial scarcity. And I wonder, like, how much of it is artificial or how much of it is dealings between massive corporations where they get deals by ordering a ridiculous quantity, because then I also think it's those other companies, the massive corporations, putting economic pressure on any smaller player that might be a disruptor. So if we go in and we buy up terabytes of RAM, we don't need it, but we're going to buy up just an insane quantity of RAM from a silicon manufacturer. Then when another company comes up and they have a much smaller order, they're going to have to pay way more than we paid per unit. So that puts a bigger economic pressure on them to deliver, and it makes it harder for them to compete, sort of AI engine to AI engine, right? I can totally see where this is also like saying it's artificial scarcity. I can see where this is also weaponizing. If you're a 3 trillion or $4 trillion market cap company with hundreds of billions of dollars in liquid cash in the bank, you could hurt your competitors. You could be buying all this stuff up and not deploying it just because it would make a smaller outlet or a Chinese firm or some type of startup, it would be more difficult for them to come into this space and try to compete against your Nana Banana. It's Nana Banana and it's got all the RAMs. It's got all the RAMs in my Nana Banana. Yeah, Antonio Cunningham saying, I agree. The current GPU MSRPs, they're already too high. Tan May saying, never let a good crisis go to waste. Hikari saying, maybe I should sell my DDR5 RAM for a profit. It stonks to the moon. Chris Pollard, and again, I think this is a good point in what we're going to kind of talk about in a little bit. AMD APUs will be the GPU winners. LOL. I mean, I'd like a Max Plus 395 system. I really feel like there are some opportunities, but unfortunately, just the RAM. Oof, excuse me, I just burped right on the mic. The RAM that goes into the APU is also going to be problematic to source. And I look at like my Surface 7 and I overbought it with 64 gigs of RAM, and now I feel like, man, maybe I did okay and I can ride that out for a year. Because I can't even take the RAM off that motherboard. It's soldered into the board. It's gonna be wild because there are so many of these technologies consumer facing. Like, I'm a big fan of ARM chipsets. I think ARM computing for the masses is really the way to go, but it does come with the drawback of not being able to upgrade your system. You've got to do RAM sort of either on the SoC or adjacent to the SoC. APUs are very similar in that respect. In fact, it's the APU that kind of got x86 to look more like an ARM style chipset. So I'm kind of curious to see what this is going to do, because this is going to impact consoles, this is going to impact PCs, this is going to impact handhelds, this is going to impact phones and tablets. This is a very basic component that is manufactured by only a handful of outlets, and it's all getting artificially compressed by this lumbering AI bubble. So yeah, it's really gonna suck for a lot of people. Tangential Tesseract makes me really glad I got 64 gigs of RAM from my Framework 16 came out. Same thing, my Surface 7. I'm glad I kind of overbought on the RAM. I spent way too much on that laptop that I should not have, and yet now I'm feeling pretty good about it. So as we see the semiconductor industry really struggle with components and pricing, there are these little leaks and hints and rumors about what the next phase of mobile tech is going to look like. So this is from sedaily.com. And I believe this is a South Korean website that popped up in my news feed, but I had to translate this from Korean. So some of this is a little bit garbled in the translation, but we're starting to get some hints. We're starting to get some rumors. Samsung Semiconductor Galaxy DRAM also contracted quarterly. Okay, that's a terrible title. But what this article is largely pointing to, when you read through it and you kind of get through the translation, we're probably going to be in very boring shape for the Galaxy S26. The semiconductor sector has decided to supply the memory semiconductors of the mobile experience division that produces smartphones in accordance with quarterly negotiations. So, I'm doing a little bit of translation here, and I'm kind of oversimplifying. I'm not. This isn't 100% accurate. This is internal reports and uncited sources, sources on background. As far as I can understand, Samsung needs to bid. Samsung Mobile, the mobile division, needs to bid on components and parts and pieces, just like any other company. Samsung is actually somewhat hostile internally to other Samsung divisions. If they can get a better price for their manufacturing or their fab or their foundry, their fabs, they'll go with the better price to make Samsung more money. So Samsung Mobile had an opportunity to contract for things like memory at a yearly rate, but instead they opted to go for a quarterly rate because I think they were worried like, well, let's say we buy in at this memory price and then memory drops in price. Well, we want to be able to negotiate quarterly based on what's happening in the market. Completely missing that over the last fiscal quarter, components like RAM have skyrocketed in price. So going into the Galaxy S26, and we are going to see Samsung's foundry, I think, try to spin up a little bit more interest in Exynos for chipsets again. I think we're going to see more Exynos powered phones in 2026. That way, Samsung Foundry can make more money. There probably is some internal pressure, like, hey, if this chip is at least somewhat competitive, we can offer it at a lower cost than what Qualcomm is going to charge you. Let's use this for these models of phones. And then for South Korea and for the United States, we'll make sure that the Qualcomm chipsets are being used there so they have the best experience. So according to this article, the price of the bill of materials, not what a phone costs retail, because we have to account for padding for profits, but the bill of materials, literally each of the components that go into your phone have a cost, and we've roughly estimated that about 20% of a phone's cost is the SoC. So the chip with the CPU and the GPU and the NPU and often the radios that power the data and the connections. We kind of say that's about 20% of the cost of the phone. And then other things like the memory and the storage, that could be between 10 and 15% of the bill of materials. Now, because of Samsung's because of their internal decision to only go with quarterly deals for RAM, now this article and this again this internal citing, I can't say that this is exactly what's happening. I don't know how accurate this might be. Now they're saying RAM and storage prices could now account for roughly 20% of the cost of the bill of materials also. So literally just the SoC and the RAM and storage could be 40% of the bill of materials when you're trying to build a phone within a certain price tier. You want your bill of materials to be at this level so that you can charge this much at retail and hopefully make a profit. And Samsung is really bad at generating big profits off of their premium tier phones. Again, the vast majority of phones sold in Android land are under $600. So when Samsung is struggling with the internal costs to manufacture the phone are now climbing radically from one quarter to the next, that is leading many to believe that Samsung is going to be in a bit of a crisis getting into 2026 because they didn't think farther ahead on making some of these deals or locking in component prices when they had the chance to. And we already were pretty confident that the Galaxy S26 was going to be yet another coasting year. So from the Galaxy S20 through the S21, S22, S23, S24, S25, and now into the S26, this is going to be another year of just very iterative kinds of updates. You're going to get a new processor. oh my gosh, isn't that so exciting? But probably the same battery and maybe slightly faster wireless charging, because the wireless charging will cook your battery and then you'll need to replace your phone sooner. And we love doing Qi 2 MagSafe batteries and cables and connectors, and those accessories are more expensive than just a USB-C cable. So you can count on your Galaxy S26 wearing out faster, and you're spending more to accessorize it, and then you'll replace that phone sooner because it's more expensive to make that phone now. So again, this is like one of these investigative internal reports, a source inside the company who wishes to remain anonymous, blah 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 blah. But give it a read through, because even through this, like I'm trying to like cut through the translation on this website. A lot of the data here looks accurate, looks correct. And then I think it just kind of reinforces how a lot of us have felt about Samsung for the last 5 years. They had a big jump in a number of technologies for the Galaxy S20, but I really feel the high point of what made Samsung unique kind of died with the Galaxy S10 series. Especially like I've got my little S10e, my little mini S10 over there on the bookshelf. And kind of the last Samsung that I hold up is this was a total package phone that really rocked and could do everything, could expand storage and plug in headphones and use decks and all of this cool stuff. And then after that, it was like, well, let's keep removing things from the phone and coasting on that same kind of profile, that same kind of technology. We haven't seen significant jumps in capability since the Galaxy S20 in 2020. And if you were coming from a Samsung, like 4 or 5 years old, I think you're going to be disappointed to find that the S26 is a very similar experience to what you've been using for years now. And it, unfortunately, because of the market situation that we're in right now, the component pricing situation that we're in right now, Samsung executive short-sightedness in the mobile division, it's likely not going to get any better. So, allude. Comments here. I got a few. I mentioned Samsung, and I don't really like to talk about Samsung much. Yep, from May, RAM companies have a history of being, oh, come on, being a cabal and price fixing. They get a slap on the wrist every time they do it. That's actually one of the major bullet points that I have a podcast. It's a 90-minute episode of this podcast where I explain why I'm such a Samsung hater. And Samsung has been ruthless about collusion, component price fixing. This is like a part of the corporate DNA. And when you talk about things that hurt consumers, Samsung has been involved in almost every single one of those anti-consumer strategies almost their entire existence as an electronics and manufacturing firm, from their TV days all the way now into the modern era. And they need ruthless scrutiny. But this is one where I think they're just happy to benefit. Like, we didn't have to force this. So Samsung Foundry and Samsung Semiconductor is like, cool, we're going to make more money on this. We make great memory chips. We make great flash storage chips. We're good. We don't need to reach out to like Micron and try and juice up the prices. We can just go with this trend as corporations buy up stock in ridiculous ways. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm scrolling through some of these comments here. So I caught up. There was a framework comment. A lot of people saying I'm really glad I upgraded last year. Mike, see, there are early reports that even the US version of the S26 might get Exynos, just like the FE series, although the rumors suggest the Ultra in the US will get Qualcomm. So that's what I've been hearing. And someone please correct Michael and I down in the chat. I feel like Samsung is trying to squeeze their customers to move up the food chain. This to me has been one of the Apple strategies they've wanted to employ the most. Whenever Apple puts out kind of a mediocre premium experience, they always seem to benefit from more people going up to the pro level. It's never, oh, well, let me just kind of coast for another year. I was gonna buy a new iPhone. They didn't give me the iPhone 17 Plus. I guess I have to buy the iPhone 17 Pro. Oh, I was going to buy an iPhone 17 Plus, but instead they did the iPhone Air. I guess I just need to buy the Pro now. For some reason, Apple has this vertical. They can always squeeze more customers up the food chain to more expensive devices. Samsung has never had that same kind of market presence. The last 2 years of Galaxy Ultras have done a little better, but we are still nowhere near making up the sales deficit from the last year, the peak year of S10 and Note sales of 2019. That was like the peak massive heyday of Samsung sales. And from 2019 to 2021, sales of premium tier Samsung fell like 40%. And still haven't, even with the Ultras selling a little better, we still haven't made up anywhere near that deficit from 2019. So for Michael C in this comment here, I totally believe no one cares about the S and the S Plus. Make that an even more mediocre experience. It's a $900 phone if you're stupid enough to buy it, and it's super, super basic, and it's kind of mid-ranger in quality. It's very much like the Pixel strategy right now. It does a few fun things, and you can do decks. If that has an Exynos in it, no one's really going to care. And then make sure you've got the gooder chip in your Ultra, and that you can absorb some of the increased costs from Qualcomm on the 8 Elite Gen 5. That's going to be like a $1,300 phone, and if it goes up another $50 just to offset the cost of the chip and this RAM scarcity we've created, well, I mean, it's the Ultra. The Ultras are going to be expensive. I really feel like this is going to be yet another squeeze where phones under $1,000 increasingly act like pain points to get you to spend up like $1,200, $1,300. And that is ludicrous. Going to spend $1,000 on a phone for the company to kind of make it the worst version of their premium tier, also that you'll be punished and that you'll know next time, well, you got to go up to the Pro, you got to go up to the Ultra. And there's no market correction for that. There's no pushback. We need to, all of us, be out there talking to our family and friends and just telling them, like, you gotta stop buying new phones. Is your phone 4 years old? Go get a new battery. Don't get a new Galaxy. It's gonna be the same or maybe a little bit worse than what you're currently using. um, oh man, Ron Guido. Do you think they might put card slots back on phones to keep phone prices down? Unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, I kind of feel like if a major manufacturer like a Samsung put SD card slots back on phones, they would act like it was this magnanimous gesture that you needed to pay way more for. I don't think it would be, well, now you can save money on the manufacturing because we're not going to put a terabyte of storage in this phone. It'll be, we had to add this component and now your battery has to be smaller because we don't use the current best battery manufacturing techniques. Your $1,300 phone is going to be a $1,500 phone now, just so we can put this little card slot back in. And right now, Apple and Google are running headlong into this. You have to remove the SIM card tray so you can have a 200 milliamp hour large battery, which is a lie. So unfortunately, I think if we were to get mass market popular manufacturers returning that functionality and that capability, it would all be pain points to discourage us from having those features that would benefit our phones. I think it's really obvious and cynical. From Rob Aarons, Samsung loves to poke fun at other manufacturers, then proceeds to do exactly what everyone else is doing. Again, they've been doing that now. I think that's the modern incarnation of Samsung. I think back in like Galaxy S4 to Galaxy S7, they were ruthlessly trying to shake the attitude that they were just copycats for Apple. Remember, we had all those lawsuits that were flying, and they took 10 years in court to try and settle, like, oh, but you're using rounded edges on your icons. That is a blatant copy of the iPhone. Um, So from like S4 to S7, they were ruthlessly trying to pack in so many different features and technologies so that they could say, look, our phones do all this stuff the iPhone can't do. And then there was like a little bit of a rounding off, but those commercials and that marketing was like the golden age of Samsung. There was the wall sitters campaign where they showed like not only do Galaxies have bigger batteries, but you can swap the battery and get on with your day. Then they got rid of that. Then they tried to get rid of expandable storage after advertising that. Then they made fun of getting rid of the headphone jack, and then they got rid of that. And then we get into the S20 era, and has been, how do we keep people paying more, and maybe we whittle back on features. Maybe we give them less phone. We make some things better, like you get a new chip. Don't you care about that 10% more compute power? But you can't do more with the chip. You'll actually be able to do less with the chip. And that's, again, why this is all horrific and cynical. It's really, really obnoxious. Michael C just commenting up a storm on this kind of stuff. I remember TK was complaining that his S25 Ultra was only 25-watt charging down from the year before. Pardon, TK's S21 Ultra that does not seem like 5 years ago. Yeah, it it's wild. Think about how long we've been in this holding pattern with Samsung. From the S20 to the S26 coming out the beginning of next year, very little has changed. From Tangential Tesseract, 5 to 7 years of security updates is a blessing. Will be interesting to see how well they stick to those claims at the end of phone life cycle. So we already have some data to suggest that they don't do a great job. So as you get into the 6th year of operating system updates, it doesn't feel like those OS updates are as well optimized. And those phones, especially from Samsung, after you get to like 3 years of support, then you start going to like quarterly updates, and then you go to half-year updates, and then by the end of life, maybe that one gets one massive OTA in the last year of its operation. So again, the promise of 5 to 7 years of updates is kind of a lie. And once you get into the end of those OS updates, you're not getting the best polished, performance optimized experience. They're pushing software out, but it's probably going to tank the performance of your phone because it's not done with the same care. Look at One UI updates and how staggered Samsung gets, and how behind Samsung has been with One UI. Every new One UI permutation is like, well, now finally it's out of beta and going out to mainstream devices. And you're like, but I've been on Android 16 on OnePlus. My OnePlus Pad 2 is on Android 16. It's doing really well. But I don't have any illusion that in the 5th year of operation of that gadget, I'm really getting the best. What I'm more worried about are security patches, Google Play system updates, and making sure the battery survives. If I could get 4 years of OS updates and 8 years of security patches, that would be a much better place for consumers to be. Fix the bugs, fix the security holes, make the device secure, but don't give me a 6th generation of Android that is not optimized for my device. That's going to tank the performance, it's going to get worse, and it's going to encourage me to buy a new phone sooner than I'd need to. That that's garbage. This prom, oh, you're going to get 7 years of updates. But is your battery going to last 3? Your Pixel's going to throttle at year 2. Maybe not even at year 2. I go through about on my OnePluses, I go through about 190 charge cycles a year. The Pixel is going to start throttling at 200 battery cycles. I gotta take a quick pause. Tangential Tesseract. Sorry, you got me on a tangent here. So this is my Pixel 10 Pro XL. This phone has a smaller battery than any of like the little mini phones that still have SIM card trays from other countries. So like here's my Pixel 10 Pro, and you can see how it's like smaller in every regard than this is my Vivo X200 FE in a case that adds like, for a little forehead and chin space right there. But this little mini phone has a battery that's 18% larger than the Pixel, and this still has a SIM card tray. So it's a lie. Google is not giving us our best. I was out of town for a week, literally 7 days. And I shut off my Pixel 10 Pro XL with, I want to say it was about an 80% charge on the battery. And I came back. I was like, oh, I need to check on something. Let me boot up the Pixel while I'm doing some other stuff. I'd swapped my SIM card. I'm in between 3 different phones right now. So I tried to boot this up and the battery's totally dead. But the phone had been off for a week. So what Google is doing with this kind of general awareness for Bluetooth and radio management for your Find My network seems to tank the battery when the phone is completely off and doing nothing. I didn't use my OnePlus 15 on the road. It was in airplane, but with Wi-Fi on. My OnePlus 15 did 7 days. It was on in my backpack in airplane mode, but with the Wi-Fi active. For 7 days, it was down to a 70% charge after a week of being on, but doing nothing. My Pixel was off and dead. So guess what? I did a third of a charge cycle with my OnePlus 15 on. I did a full charge cycle with my Pixel 10 Pro XL off. So I'm going to go through way more charge cycles on the Pixel 10 Pro XL than I will on the OnePlus 15. And the Pixel 10 Pro XL is going to start throttling performance at 200 charge cycles regardless of the actual battery health. It's literally just the counter of charge cycles that I go through. My OnePlus 12 is just over 200 charge cycles, 98% battery health. My OnePlus 13 is at 188. I think it's 188 charge cycles, 99% battery health. I know that that's going to change like getting into year 3 and year 4, and I'm not using these devices as my main daily drivers into year 3 and 4, but these are aging so much better than the Pixels are. So I don't care about 7 years of operating system updates from Google because Google is going to tank my phone in 2 years. It's a ticking time bomb of throttling, and in 200 charge cycles that happen faster. I can't even shut the phone off to prevent additional charge cycles. Google is going to rake us if you're really thinking you're going to use these phones for 4 years. Again, the average that consumers are holding onto their phones is increasing. The average is getting closer to 3 years. That means for every person who flips their phone 2 years, there are more people who are trying to make it to 4 years. For every person that's trying to flip their phone every year, there are more people that are trying to last to 5 years, so we can get to this average of close to 3 years of operation. Consumers are desperate. Consumers are trying to hold on to this stuff, and Google, Apple, and Samsung are doing everything they can to make sure that the components that burn out, that force you to flip your phone and force you to throttle down, are the things that are kind of the poorest examples on their devices. Apple, Samsung, and Google give us the worst battery tech, the worst charging tech, and are the most aggressive in trying to impress us with wireless charging. And consumers keep falling for it. Wireless charging is not a consumer benefit. It is not more convenient. It is more expensive, it is slower, and it's gonna wear out your phone faster. And we can't even escape it by like shutting our phone off completely. I'm actually gonna try and do a video here. I'm gonna charge up my OnePlus 15 and leave it on, but with Wi-Fi, and I'm gonna charge up my Pixel 10 Pro XL again and check it every day and see how long it can sustain being totally off. I'm just like, this is so stupid. This is so dumb. But you know, it's a $1,300 phone, so it's the bestest phone that Google makes, and I don't even care that it's the worst performer, gets the worst battery life, and has the slowest charging, because I like my Nana Banana. I like the Nana Banana. It's a nano. Isn't it so cute that you say nano? Is nano banana? Is a banana. Oh man. Vonnegut Rosewater is saying Netflix just removed casting options from mobile. I we paid for Netflix last month and caught up on the Diplomat, and then we shut it off again. So I've uninstalled it from all of my phones yet again. Um, I genuinely don't know if Netflix has removed casting. I would be very surprised if they did. But maybe it's one of those things where, oh no, what if you visit your relatives and you allow them to watch something from your phone? How dare you? And I wouldn't put it past them. Netflix gotten really impoopified also. Esteban is saying, out of curiosity, what's your cell phone provider? The prepay scene has become so competitive nowadays. I just stopped going postpaid. 2 years ago, I switched from Google Fi to Mint Mobile. I still like Google Fi. A number of my family are still on Google Fi, but we're really doing the math. And even though you do get throttled heavier in high congestion areas on Mint than you do on Fi, I think the cost of Marie and I to have phone service for a year is like, I want to say it's under $500. So we looked at the amount of data that we were consuming, and it was just silly to keep paying for Google Fi. And so we're on Mint, and again, there are definitely some compromises. You get way less support. That, you know, if you need to subsidize the cost of your phone and you're not satisfied just picking up a good solid entry or mid-ranger phone, just use that as a daily driver communicator, Mint ain't gonna help you much at all. But if you're fine like buying a phone, like for example, right now my SIM card is in the Vivo X300 Pro, and I know the X300 Pro was lacking some of the 5G bands across the United States, but even in like rural Southwest, I was getting competitive 4G plus connections in areas that I know have garbage 5G. So the Mint SIM card worked great here. I haven't even bothered trying to set up my Pixel 10 Pro XL with my actual personal number because it doesn't have a SIM card tray. So I can easily pop between all of my Vivos and Xiaomi's and my OnePluses. It's cake. I want to switch phones for a day? Boom, pop that card, put it in a new phone, and I'm good to go. I don't have to jump through hoops. I don't have to, oh, it's so easy to scan and transfer, and it's just a QR code, and then you can do this, and then that works. Because that never really works consistently when you switch devices like I do. And I used to be the guy who would recommend to people, have a burner phone, have a weekender, have a really nice phone that gets you through your work week, and then you want to go down to the beach, just have like some cheap phone you can pop the SIM card in, and then you can roll down, and like you're not too worried, you're not too bothered. You can't recommend that in an eSIM world to the same degree. And especially carriers are already looking at, maybe you've switched devices too many times. Well, they can stop you. If I have a SIM card, they can't stop me. I just put the card in a new phone, and then the new phone is just the phone. So anyway, sorry, that's not what you were asking, Este Bandido. Antonio Cunningham, all of these reasons are why I'm pro removable batteries. I'm still waiting. I know the EU has mandates on manufacturing, and we're supposed to be seeing the impact of that over the next couple years. I really want to see, you've got to be able to easily disassemble the device and get to the battery and replace it. It doesn't need to be a consumer daily strategy. It's not like the removable back and the hard shelled batteries we used to use, but it needs to be accessible and universal so that our devices can be more repairable. And when we get to 3 or 4 years of operation, we can go to any repair shop, pop out a couple screws, put in a new battery, maybe put in a new gasket for water resistance, and then be on our way. It cannot be, the situation we have now is unsustainable. So, what time is it? It's 10:40. You know, I've got a couple, let me just kind of speed run through a few of these here because I do want to get to that last and we can wrap up talking about OnePlus 15. Here, let me kill this. Sony has a new link to this because I'd like you to actually read Sony's press release instead of the articles talking about it. But the new Lydia sensor, it looks interesting. So it's not a 1 inch type, it's a 1/1.12 type sensor. But it looks like they're finally competing against Samsung's 200 megapixel density. So what is that? It's a 4x4 grid. So each green pixel is now subdivided into 4x4 smaller individual pixels. So this is still just like every camera on the planet shoots 12 megapixels. But now each big green pixel, each big red pixel, and each big blue pixel is 16 little teeny mini pixels. And that's how we get to these 200 million um, megapixel counts. You're going to push the shutter button and you're going to get 12 MP. Then there's going to be a specialty mode where a special demosaicing filter can kind of turn this into a 200 megapixel image, but it's not really 200 megapixels, and your phone lens can't resolve 200 megapixels worth of information. So I find that 200 MP mode is a waste because at some point it's really just the limitations of the lens and then AI making up detail in a huge photo, but the detail really isn't optical. Even on a lot of our 50 megapixel modes, you'll zoom in, and once you zoom in past what you could have zoomed in on 12 MP, you quickly see that image degrade and just become that wormy, speckled AI interpretation of what that information looked like. You see it a lot on the Pixel 10 zoom. And Vivo's doing a lot of AI sharpening that's starting to look like that too. But the AI is trying to make up what that would have looked like when you're at the extreme end of your phone's zoom range. As is the same thing that happens once we start saying 200 megapixels. But what's interesting is that this is going to be a high readout, a fast readout sensor, large sensor. It's almost a 1 inch type sensor. And this is also creating some competition. So Sony finally announces this, and immediately after Sony announces this, OmniVision has announced a 1/1.1 inch type sensor, just a fraction of a micron larger than Sony Lydia's sensor. It's not going to be perceptible at all. But OmniVision is looking at a new range of camera sensors for competing devices. And I would say that the partnership that Xiaomi had with OmniVision proved very interesting. What you could do, I want to say it was the Xiaomi 14? No, I think it was the Xiaomi 13 that had the OmniVision first. Someone's going to have to correct me on that. But I pick up this little phone. It's competitive against like a Galaxy S23, and it's got this new OmniVision 1/1.3 inch type sensor, and Xiaomi's letting the ISO go crazy. Like it's 2 stops more light gathering than what a Galaxy Ultra could do, and it's processing that information with lower noise. The OmniVision sensor was very good, and OmniVision is usually a company we hold up as the big compromised phone sensor. Like this is the sensor you put into cheap phones because it's not good. OmniVision was nipping at the heels of Samsung and Sony camera tech. So Sony putting this out, we're finally confirming that we knew Sony was working on a large sensor that had high megapixel count. Then OmniVision is right on their heels. This is actually really exciting in mobile phone photography as we've kind of normalized 1/1.3, and I wish more companies were using true 1 inch type, but this is so close to a 1 inch type. It should help with a lot of what I like in photographic composition. It's going to give us a shallower depth of field. It's going to give us better low light capabilities. You're going to get great 12 megapixel images. Then the camera will lie to you and make also a 50 megapixel AI upscaled version of your 12 megapixel image. Fine. But the HDR capabilities, the video capabilities, like 4K 120, fast readout, all of that stuff, this is what we get excited about a new larger camera sensor. Yeah, from John Gao, Xiaomi 17 Ultra will likely use a Type 1 sensor from OmniVision instead of Sony. Xiaomi's relationship with OmniVision has been very beneficial to both companies. OmniVision has like slingshotted into a much more competitive space, and I think Xiaomi is able to dictate what they want. So Xiaomi worked with Sony to make those 1-inch type sensors legit. So they were taking the 1-inch type sensor from like Sony's super zoom cameras, the RX line of cameras, and trying to force that into a phone. And then Xiaomi went to Sony and said, we really want a proper 4x3 phone camera sensor. And we want it to be this diagonal. We want a 1-inch type sensor. And Sony and Xiaomi worked together on that. I'm sure it was ruthlessly expensive, but you get into the Xiaomi 12S Ultra, you get this incredible photographic capability from that phone. Well, Sony has proven this technology works. It's exceedingly expensive. Now, Xiaomi can kind of take some of those experiences, and for the last couple of years, I think they've been working with OmniVision to improve OmniVision's output so they can get hardware that's going to be more competitive and at a lower price. And I think that's working very well for Xiaomi right now. From Fat8893. Also, 50 megapixel 1-inch for the main camera. I'm not sure about going for Find X9 Ultra if the rumor of it having a 200 megapixel main camera is true. And Mr. Maug, OmniVision is essentially becoming what MediaTek has become, but for cameras. Again, like people will smirk and shrug at a MediaTek chip. No. Dimensities are awesome chips. People will like kind of smirk or shrug if they even know that companies make camera sensors. OmniVision camera sensors have gotten very good. So, like, we're excited about this. I'm a little anxious about the Xiaomi 17 Ultra because I don't think it's going to be more ultra than the last Xiaomi. In fact, I kind of feel like last year's Ultra was more ultra than this year's Ultra. It is confusing to talk about phone generations. But I did want to bring up, I said I was going to speed round, and then I totally lied to you. I spent more time on that article than I would have wanted to. We have a kind of a news report slash editorial from GSM Arena, written up by Mikhail. iPhone Air's poor sales have discouraged Chinese makers from slim phones. I'd like you to read this through. They've got some links and some conversation about not only the iPhone Air kind of underperforming, but also the Galaxy S25 Edge underperforming. And so now brands like Xiaomi, Oppo, and Vivo have reportedly canceled their plans to launch ultra slim phones meant to compete with the iPhone Air. And I could not be happier. I am so happy that these phones are failing in the market and that consumers are not stupid enough to spend $1,000 on a phone that takes up just as much space in your pocket, but it's a teeny bit skinnier so that you get half the battery capacity, one camera, and one speaker. This was always Apple's plan to either remove more stuff from your phone and keep charging you a higher price, or it was to push you up the food chain so that you'd be forced to buy a Pro phone if you wanted a large phone, a phone with a large screen, but then also you wanted good cameras and a good battery. This is the most cynical aspect of Apple's current executive strategy, that they really think their consumers are that stupid that they can keep hiking up prices and giving them less phone. And then we've been talking about all these components and prices and what the market is doing. Um, I think it's been kind of interesting to see the conversation around Steam and Valve. So this is from Ars Technica, written up by Kyle Orland. Valve Steam machine looks like a console, but don't expect it to be priced like one. And Valve plays things really close to the vest. They don't come out with something until they're ready to talk about it. You know, Half-Life 3 joke, blah, 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 blah. But this one, I didn't expect to see sort of the gnashing of teeth that we've seen in like the gamer space. To me, this seemed like a pretty clear. Because I produced a video just being crazy excited about the Steam frame, and as long as the Steam frame is maybe up to around $1,500, I'm happy to buy a Steam frame instead of supporting Facebook, doing business with Meta, or giving a dime to Oculus. It could be 3 times the price of an Oculus, and I will be happy to not give Meta any money for ostensibly a very similar experience. Because I believe in what Steam has accomplished on the Steam Deck. I would like to see that happen with the AR, the VR, and the mixed reality space as well. Opening up some of these platforms, making things more accessible, not trying to wall garden and lock everything down. I want to see the Steam version of this win, and I'm happy to put my money where my mouth is. As soon as there's a pre-order, I actually have a chunk of money dedicated to a Steam frame. So Steam Machine, I kind of felt was a very similar strategy or a very similar tactic. Moving forward from this point, using a little AMD chip, we're going to make what we think is the base model version of what a gaming PC should be. But a gaming PC is more expensive than a console. So I think a lot of people got caught up like, well, the Steam Deck was a little more expensive than a Nintendo Switch. Maybe a Steam Machine is going to be priced similarly to a base model Xbox. And I don't understand how that idea took root. But so many people, like especially if we've been sharing links on the private Discord, like so many people on Reddit, right, are like, oh, but I already have a better, this gaming PC isn't going to be worth it, or people are going to be mad, it's too much money. And to me, this is the starting from here, this is what we think the baseline experience should be for a good 1080p living room gaming experience. And now we're taking the full compute guts that you can do so much more with a computer than you can with a console. And from here, we expect other manufacturers to make more powerful gaming PCs. But using a gaming PC in your living room has been kind of miserable because Windows sucks. It's just real bad. And I took a little Geekom mini PC. This is on the Patreon. You can find just sort of my little report on it. It wasn't like the most polished video. I wasn't looking to try and make it, hey, me too. I know ETA Prime did this, but I also did it. So I just gave up trying to compete on YouTube's algorithm. But I've been detailing some of my experiences. Like I took a Geekom. I want to say it was roughly a $900 mini PC. So that's definitely more expensive than a lot of consoles out there, but it's very similar in configuration to the more powerful handheld machines that are coming out now. And I wiped this box, I put Steam OS on it. I didn't do another Linux distro, I did Steam OS, proper Steam OS, and now it's a brilliant little 1080p living room gaming box. Teeny tiny frame. I know the Steam machine is going to be more powerful than the Geekom that I used. So why would I expect that those components are going to be cheaper? Especially because the build makes more sense. My Geekom has an external power brick. The Steam machine is going to have an integrated power supply so that cooling is more effective. You don't want this hot lump of a brick cranking 70 watts, probably on the carpet behind your TV. That's a bad recipe for a component failure, PSU failure, or something like that. It gets hot enough. It's not really a great strategy. You want to keep that off of the floor. But on the Steam machine, it's built in with a giant fan sticking out the back so that you're cooling those heat generating components, right? So to me, it just felt it was kind of interesting. How many people have kind of locked in on this? Well, I mean, if it's not going to be $300, then it's going to be a failure. I would of WOULDOF. I would have bought it if it were half a ham sandwich and a firm handshake with eye contact. See, those are really conversation points in earnest. The reality of this market is really gross right now. I bet you Steam Machine is definitely suffering from component prices. Like, oh no, we were gonna charge like $7.99 or $8.99 for this box, and now RAM just tripled in price. I guess it's gonna be $1,000 machine now. Like, to not acknowledge what a gaming PC might cost. But I want people to think like, how would you put together a good 1080p experience and put that behind a TV. I mean, we've been doing this for a while. The the machine that I have behind our TV now, I can't remember how much that Core i9 cost. So what I have is one of the Intel Nook Extremes. It was a Core i9 laptop chip, and it had this was one of the Nooks that did have the ability to use an external not external, to use a dedicated GPU with space in the box. The Nook enclosure, you had to use a small form factor GPU, but then I moved it to a Cooler Master case. You could rip the entire guts of this Nook out, and Cooler Master made this beautiful small form factor case for the Nook card that the compute unit. And so I could use a full-sized GPU. So it's a Core i9 with an RTX 2080 Ti. So that's a decently beefy little card. Um, I performance per watt, the 1080 I used to have probably would have been better. But what I'm doing is I'm playing games 1080p at 60 frames per second. Like I just got the new Sonic racing game, Cross World or whatever it's called. And that game looks awesome at 60 frames per second, 1080p. When I installed that game, it said, oh, you're connected to a 4K display. So let's play the game in 4K. And it ratcheted all of the quality settings down to such low resolution, such low textures, no shadow detail, no anything. I was looking at like a PS2 game on a dusty television. That's what it looked like. And I'm freaking out. Like, I cannot believe that my Nook Core i9 with a 2080 Ti is struggling this bad. So I go into the graphic settings and I immediately see, oh, it's locked at 4K. So it's giving me the worst possible version of 4K. I scale it back down to 1080p and it looks incredible. The game is so much prettier. I know I'm not getting all of the resolution of my 4K TV, but it's playing at 60 frames. Oh, and it was also locked at 30 frames per second. 30 frames per second, 4K, lowest possible graphics settings, hot garbage for a racing game. Awful. Cleaned it all up, 60 frames per second, looks great now. Love it. The game just, oh, it's so much fun. Especially for a little kart racer. I'm not like the big fan of what Mario Kart has done for this new Mario Kart travel open world nonsense. Cross Worlds is gimmicky and silly and it's just another kart racer, but like I feel like it's a better racer. It's less it's less about being last place until you get the best power-ups and then you can kind of grief people and then win a race by purposely trying to be last for the first lap. The Sonic Cross Worlds, it's like it actually does kind of reward you if you're a decent racer. Even on some of the early tracks, like I'm pretty good at just kind of skidding around and drifting and stuff like that. It feels very similar to Sonic Team Racing, um, Team Sonic Racing, whatever that game was. But I could pull off some first place finishes in the very beginning, early stages of this game and it let me. It wasn't like I just suddenly got clobbered by a bunch of random power-ups. It rewarded the fact that I was doing well as part of the racing part. Anyway, I digress. I'm way off track here. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is a gaming PC is not a console. I don't think that's a controversial statement. And we do have to affix a higher price to a Linux computer that is built like a full-fledged computer and is hopefully upgradable like a full-fledged computer. At least the ability to add more storage internally, if not, maybe pop some more RAM when RAM prices finally crater and stabilize again. I just don't understand where this idea came from that it could only possibly compete in the living room if it was like Xbox Series S pricing. So I will say Ars Technica has a good write up on just the whole situation. I think they lean a little hard into, oh, what if it's more than $500? And I kind of always thought it would be. If you paid attention to mini PC pricing, this tier of performance in a mini PC is likely around $1,000. And that's before we saw all the price hikes for RAM and storage. So I'm hoping that Valve did a good job of stockpiling parts to get into this manufacturing and distribution. And hopefully we're not going to see like a sudden spike. If this thing comes out, and again, if the Steam machine is like $1,500, that's a little bit harder to swallow. But let's say it's 1,000. I think this is a better living room experience than if you had a portable console like the Xbox Ally, and that's $1,000. This will be more powerful and more capable. I think that would be a good thing. I don't think, I think again, I think we got a little too into our feels on Steam Deck being a baseline portable experience. And now nothing can be more expensive than that, except that we love there's a more powerful Lenovo and a more powerful MSI and a more powerful Asus. So those can kind of be more expensive, but we'll really consider that. Well, now here's a living room machine that's going to be more powerful than the current Xbox ROG Ally, and that's about $1,000. I think the Steam machine is probably going to be about $1,000, somewhere in there. We'll have to see. Again, they're going to be really cagey until they're ready to announce, and I don't think they're going to announce until they know how much they're going to pay for all these components. Aw, Miles Nearly, your average consumer back in, bro. Hello, average consumer. Welcome back to the show. From Michael C2, I was tempted to buy the Steam Deck when they were selling the LCD 256 for 300 or something brand new. Basically, it's a refurbished price, but brand new. 280 bucks to dip your toes in PC gaming like that is an amazing deal. So I have a launch 512 gig LCD Steam Deck. I still have not replaced the fan. Mine has the whiny fan, the higher pitched, more annoying fan. That machine has been awesome. I have not felt any burning desire to flip it for an OLED. I'm playing Sonic Racing. There's new Sonic Cross Worlds, 720p, lowest possible graphics. It's pinned at 60 frames per second at 10 watts. I limited the output so that I was being more power efficient. It doesn't look awesome, but it plays really well. Steam Deck has been rocking my socks as a bang for buck performer, and it's completely rekindled my love for just casual and indie games. I played through most of Splintered Fate with my daughter, but we played a good chunk of that on the Steam Deck. I played through Dead Cells again. I even picked up like some gimmicky, really not great games like Dust and Neon is a really solid twin stick shooter mechanic. The game itself isn't awesome, but it's so much fun on the Steam Deck. And it's exactly the kind of game that you can play for like 3 hours on a charge on a Steam Deck and like not completely tank the battery. Um, from Ross Sosty, you should try Sonic Rumble. It's also on Steam. So right now, my daughter, she doesn't love platformers. They're proving too challenging, and I really want her to try more, like maybe even like some Metroidvanias, something like that. So I think it really works the brain. You've got to time your jumps, you got to time your attacks, and then you've got to remember your map, got to backtrack. It's a lot of strategy, it's a lot of problem solving. But the games that she kind of likes is just social experiences or racing games. We have two different kart racers and an old school arcadey racer, and she loves them. So I just got Sonic Cross Worlds. It was on sale over Thanksgiving on Steam. So I got the whole pack. It's got like upgrade characters. It's got SpongeBob is one of the new unlockable characters. So I paid for that as like part of the season pass price. And I think she likes it because we've only played couch co-op and couch competitive. So if there's not a social aspect to it, she's not really too into it. She hasn't gotten into a lot of other gaming experiences where there's only like online play. She really likes trash talking someone next to her on the couch. It's like old school Super Nintendo style. You suck. Ha 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 ha. Here's a boxing glove to your face. that kind of stuff. Or she also really likes just button mashing on like Super Street Fighter. So it needs to have that immediate interaction. But a couple of her friends are still super into Sonic. So I'm gonna maybe try and set up a play date so they can come drop by. They can do some one-on-one races and time trials and stuff. And again, it's got to have that element to it. So I might try Sonic Rumble and just see, because again, we don't have a Nintendo right now. There's no Smash Brothers, but I think she might dig something that is kind of again directly human in the room with you, kind of competitive. Oh, Ratsati saying lots of fun collectibles, lots of fun collabs for Cross Worlds. I was kind of impressed just on the season pass unlocked characters were kind of cute. So I'm already enjoying it, and I haven't even had time to play it with Lex yet. But I got to play it first so I can get good, and then she's gonna wipe the floor with me. From Miles Nearly, gaming is such a tricky piece of the technology pie. Cell phones dominate the tech world in many ways. Oh, sorry, the chat just jumped. Where is it? In many cell phones dominate the tech world in many ways, and most people have a phone in hand while gaming. We will see more attachments to phones. And Michael C, I was just about to bring this up, but Michael C beat me to it. Juan has also been talking about how the ability to emulate PC games that don't even have proper mobile ports is going to make phone performance more important. This is a big deal. Um, I think it's going to be really exciting to see, and why I'm so excited about the Steam frame, because the frame is using the emulation PC emulation layer that some of these other apps are utilizing, like Winlater. And then on top of that, we've got the Proton compatibility layers. And as soon as we see this kind of build, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 is going to be our baseline for emulation, just like an AMD APU is our baseline for living room, right? So as long as you've got something with like Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 or more powerful, you should be able to start playing more PC games directly installed on your phone through better emulation optimization. And all these people, I still get comments. I got a comment over Thanksgiving like, well, what you have to understand is there's no mobile chip that can compare to an APU. And like, that's total crap. There, any system of measurement where we can compare the chip in your phone, if it's recent, to a chip in like a Steam Deck, our phones are more powerful than Steam Decks. The only thing they lack is active cooling. And that's where the Steam Deck will maybe keep a more consistent performance. But let's not pretend that the Steam Deck is more powerful. And my phone has a 120 hertz refresh rate display that is actually used when I play a game like Alien Isolation. I'm playing that at 120 frames per second on a phone, and I literally cannot do that on my Steam Deck. So I think we've crested that. The actual performance is definitely in favor of these little ARM chips, especially in performance per watt. Oh yeah. Sorry, there are a bunch of really good comments in here. Michael C also saying, I saw that Netflix is releasing a port for Red Dead Redemption 1 on Android soon. GTA 4 would be cool too, but eventually emulators will be able to handle it if there's no port. We're getting really close to that. The first time I played Red Dead Redemption mobile, it was maybe through an emulator for another portable console, and it played better on a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 than it did on that portable console. I wonder what console I could be talking about. Um, from Antonio, also replying Miles and Michael having this chat. You're not that far off. I almost always have my phone close by when I game. I no longer use dual monitor because of this. Um, I, this multi-screen idea and the ability to like plug in glasses. Like say you want a cinema display and you just pop that on your face and you have this huge display and you can play that, use that as your game. I think there's a lot of potential there. We just need some company to kind of put those pieces together so that people can more easily figure out what works and how to go about it. Like, again, this would be way better if our phones had two ports. Like, if I had two USB-C ports on my phone, it would make that phone radically more capable, literally just in the accessories, the charging, power management, and how everything fits together. And we still got to get to that point. It's disappointing that the phones are holding us back while they're giving us all of this incredible compute capability. So I want to wrap up this week's show because we're already over 2 hours. And man, if this like streaming experience has still stayed super choppy, I was hoping it would even out a bit. But I did want to highlight this one story. And again, I caught it first on GSM Arena. Let me screen share this quick. One, though, I just tried talking and I completely failed. The OnePlus 15 finally clears FCC US launch, might be very near. So when we were stuck in that government shutdown, part of the government is the FCC. And one of the jobs that the FCC has is clearing devices to operate on networks here in the United States. And so for all of my OnePlus coverage, I've been having to put these little like links and like quotes from OnePlus PR. We don't know when you can buy it yet. So here's the OnePlus 15. I've been using it here in the United States. Sure sucks that you can't buy it. Oh no. But now that this has gotten its official regulatory clearance to operate in the United States, we should start seeing some information from OnePlus. If you were like waiting to purchase or order this phone, if you go to oneplus.com or you go to any of the links like in the videos and articles that I published on it, you could sign up to be on the notification list when the device goes live. That should now be accessible. So hopefully we'll get proper confirmation from what their distribution is going to look like. And now this phone, it's so frustrating because I feel like Oppo and OnePlus really tried to get aggressive in launching this phone early in 2025. They put up um, the, the phone always launches in China first, and then reviewers like me, I could either choose to buy a Chinese version of the phone to talk about it months earlier, or I'd wait for OnePlus PR. I like to be on OnePlus PR's good side, and I'd have to play ball with their embargoes. This year, the difference wasn't months. It was like a couple of weeks in between the Chinese launch, them reaching out saying, hey, do you want to take this for a spin? Our embargo is this. I said, yeah, that'd be great because the embargo is really close to the Chinese version for the first time. And then they got hit with this regulatory issue where they couldn't get the device approved because our government was shut down for the longest government shutdown in our nation's history. That's the kind of stuff that if you don't pay attention to politics, you don't understand how much of an opportunity this was for OnePlus and how we now were denied that as a competitive resource. Because now it's only going to be about a month behind the Galaxy, where it could have been closer to 2 months ahead of the Galaxy launch. I need you all to know I have been playing with the future of what powerful devices are going to feel like into 2026 for well over a month now. And no one else has been able to play with it. And consumers haven't been able to shop it. And you just end up having to wait. I wouldn't be surprised if we later, like 20 years from now, got some kind of, Freedom of Information Act disclosure that Samsung was also just putting pressure on, our government to say, oh, don't let a Chinese company sell a phone earlier. Just stall the regulatory process for approving the phone. Like, that wouldn't shock me. I have no inside information that is not confirmed. That's not a rumor. That's not anything that I know has happened. It's just 20 years from now, I would not be surprised if there were those kinds of conversations between massive corporations doing business in the United States and trying to use regulatory practices to halt competition and innovation. So, got a couple minutes. I'm going to take a bigger swig of coffee if we want to start trying to wrap this up. I saw a couple other questions. There's some great comments in the chat. It's just been kind of tricky, kind of balancing how choppy the stream has been this week. But if there's something else you all want to chat about, um, I've been using the OnePlus 15 a little. I've been using the Vivo X300 Pro a lot. And I've been using the Pixel 10 Pro XL almost not at all. And guess which one's been getting the worst battery life? Zing. All right, let me take a drink of coffee here, and then we can wrap up the show. Sorry, some really fun in comments here. Michael C reminding me that the Lenovo Legion Dual in 2020 had a second USB-C port. I think there was an Asus. Does Asus still do the side port? I genuinely can't remember. I feel like Asus just took the Zen phone and the ROG phone and made them the same phone, and then just changed the outer cladding. Like the ROG feels a little less like a gaming phone to me than the hardware that's on a Red Magic. But I also have a hard time recommending a Red Magic unless you are exactly that person who's going to flip their phone like almost every year just so you can get the new operating system, because that those phones get no updates. It's such incredible hardware for no updates at all. So I don't know, it's just kind of funny. But Fat, I think, has kind of nailed it. These are still my feelings for the OnePlus 15, even though I'm hoping we'll see another sort of round of updates and polish. Fat says, I have a friend who currently daily drives a OnePlus 11. My mom is on a OnePlus 11. So I don't mind recommending a OnePlus 15 to him, but for me, I still think the 13 and the 12 are great phones, and you don't need to update if you have either. I have my OnePlus 12 like right in front of me. My OnePlus 13 is downstairs. And if you have the OnePlus 12 and you like the cameras on the OnePlus 12, stick with the OnePlus 12. This is a monster phone still today. The camera sensors always mattered, even though tech influencer shills and hacks always downplayed OnePlus cameras. Oh, but you know, OnePlus cameras aren't as good as other flagship phone cameras. I'm going to compare a $900 OnePlus to a $1,200 Galaxy, and the Galaxy cameras are a little better. Those people always sucked. Like, they're real bad at tech, but they're just there. They exist solely to sell product for Samsung, Google, and Apple, because they have good relationships with those companies' PR. And if they ever indicated that another competing phone was competitive or often better, well, then they wouldn't get invited to Samsung, Google, and Apple PR events anymore. You see? So we've had to suffer their hack analysis and their terrible reviews of these products, all because it makes them more money. But if you have a OnePlus 12, it is still a baller. It is still a brutally powerful pocket computer with excellent camera hardware on it. If you weren't as into the photography side of this, because I know I like to focus on phone cameras a lot. We just did a news piece that I did not intend to speak about the difference between Sony, Samsung, and OmniVision camera sensors. And I think I did about 4 minutes on that topic. Um, the OnePlus 15 is interesting. It is a ruthlessly powerful and fluid experience with incredible battery life. But again, that is the recommendation is a little weaker if you liked the cameras on the OnePlus 12 or the OnePlus 13. Even if you liked the cameras, I went all the way back. I've just been playing with it. I got to take it back out of its wrapper again. I picked up the OnePlus 8 Pro. The OnePlus 8 Pro is kind of a monster camera phone. Like, it's still good and kind of competitive today, because this still has hardware on it that we don't find on a lot of mid-ranger phones. So the OnePlus 8 Pro was already ahead of the curve back when everyone was like, oh, well, you know, the OnePlus cameras aren't as good. And you're like, you've always been hot trash if you picked up the Pro OnePluses and then like just couldn't find a way to get good photos out of them. Like, seriously, the camera sensor here was the first that we stepped up to this 1/1.43, and I had conversation. I was on one of the podcasts for, I think it was all about Android, and they were asking me about the OnePlus 8 Pro because I was giving it such a glowing recommendation, and I forget who said it. It was one of the hosts said, but isn't it weird that they put the better sensor on the ultra wide? Because that has 50 megapixels and the main camera sensor only has 48 megapixels, ignoring the massive differences in sensor size. And I had to explain, no, 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 no. The main camera sensor is better, even though it is lower resolution. It's a larger sensor that delivers shallower depth of field, better low light capabilities. This is how cameras work. So ever since like the OnePlus 7 Pro, all of these hacks, all of these shills have been talking trash about OnePlus cameras, ignoring the fact that they've always been competitive or better than similarly priced devices. And that's still technically true for the OnePlus 15. It's just disappointing that it's not as stunning a victory as it used to be in the past. So there was another one. Did someone have a question? Oh yeah. So sorry. Let me scroll back up. You guys are putting in comments here, and it's faster than what my browser can keep up with. Antonio Cunningham, I bought a Beam Pro for my XR glasses because it had 2 USB-C ports and it allowed me to carry a lot of local storage. It's my trip device. I think we're going to see some really fun stuff. I know, who was it? Was it Rokid? I can't remember now. Lenovo had some new glasses coming out. TCL Ray Neo just brought out their new sort of more entry-level priced glasses. Some of those were even hitting like sub $200 on sales, which is wild. To think that you're going to pack like a 1080p portable face display for around 200 bucks. That's awesome. I love seeing the prices come down on that kind of stuff. But the little like side computers, because I still have which one? Yeah, this is the Rokid. So this is basically, oof, it's dusty. I just put all that dust in my nose. This is basically a Google TV in a battery powered lump remote. And then you plug your glasses into it and you can stream and watch content that way. I still have my original, this is the X-Real Beam, not great, but still a functional device to kind of add a little sort of spatial tracking and head movement computation to a pair of glasses. It's fun having like the dedicated device again. If it's like a media player, or if it's like a music player, or now if it's like an, a mixed reality portable cinema experience, it takes some of the load off of your phone and you can pack it full of more stuff. It's kind of fun. Again, if the phones aren't going to give us these capabilities, maybe we need to go off the phone. So from Uncle Gamer, so is a OnePlus 13R a good jump for now, or would you go with like a Pixel? So where is my, here's my OnePlus 13R. So the OnePlus 13R, high performance device, great battery life, decent cameras. They're not exceptional, but I think they're solid. Again, if we're talking like daily snapshotty, just slice of life moments that you would capture from a phone camera, I don't think the 13R lets you down. And it gave us 3 actual usable sensors, not 2 sensors and a stupid macro shooter. That was useless. Those macros, those like 2 megapixel close up cameras, awful. They've always been hot garbage. The 13R, totally solid in all those respects. Great battery life, fast charging. I think you could do really well shopping one of these on a sale. And for a lot of people's needs, if you're telling me you need a good daily driver phone with great battery life and you want a good, fluid, snappy feeling phone, I think the 13R is currently besting the more reasonably priced Pixels. I would still probably opt for this over a Pixel 10. I would definitely opt for this over a Pixel 9a, any of the Pixel A series phones. I also just have more confidence that it'll age better. That the chip and the battery and the charging in an R series One Plus will age better than the battery in an A series Pixel. Those seem to have been having the worst issues with battery failures, recalls, weird updates that throttle the performance hard. The Pixel A series has actually kind of turned into a very dangerous recommendation, in my opinion. If you want better photography, I would step up to a OnePlus 12 or a OnePlus 13. That's when you could also maybe consider a Pixel Pro, but it is definitely going to be a less powerful device. It's going to do less on the device, poorer capabilities,
even on the OnePlus 15, where the OnePlus 15 has poorer camera sensors, I could do 4K 120 in video, and I definitely can't do that on a Pixel. So it's that kind of, you need to sort of weigh the pros and cons, and the pros and cons are a lot finer and more nuanced than I think they used to be like 5 years ago. Like 5 years ago, a new phone would come out and it was just objectively better in almost every regard than the phone that came before it. This year, you're going to get better performance and better battery life, but maybe the cameras are actually kind of a downgrade. Or maybe everything's really even, but the upgrade is really iterative. So, like my Vivo X200 Pro, the X300 Pro, doesn't feel like a significant difference. They feel very similar. So, that's what you kind of run into. I think the 13R is still a killer phone. It is ridiculous overkill for a lot of the daily driver stuff. Oh, yeah. See, this one's tricky. Antonio Cunningham absolutely nails. I was going to recommend my close friend get a 13R, but I sometimes let him use my XR glasses, so now that's out. He currently has a Pixel 8 and he likes my OnePlus 13. So yeah, again, if you need a more advanced feature like video out through that USB-C port, unfortunately, a lot of our mid-rangers lack those kinds of features. And the one phone company that does still seem to include that at all of their price tiers is Google. So the Pixel A series does have video out. The Pixel 10 has video out. The Pixel 10 Pro XL has video out. If you want to pair it with something, a really fun accessory like a portable monitor or XR glasses, then you got to go either proper OnePlus number, the more expensive version, or you can go to a Pixel mid ranger. But you really got to weigh, like, is that something you're doing all the time? I do it a lot while I travel. I cannot let go of phones and tablets that don't have. I can't travel with phones and tablets that don't have video output because I really use my XR glasses, especially on airplanes. But even just sometimes around the house, like I'll throw them on if my wife's watching something on the main TV and I just want to kick back and kind of stream something else. The TV in my office almost never gets used because the TV in my office is not as nice as watching on XR glasses. So you got to be selective. You really got to weigh the I've said it before. You really got to weigh the pros and cons and say this is what I like to do. This is what I hope to do over the next year or two. That's how I'm going to buy my phone and how I might try to future proof that experience. So, I'll offer just extend another apology. I know this was probably a tricky podcast to watch as I can't figure out what's causing Restream to be this choppy. I look so much smoother on my video preview window here on my capture card. But folks, I didn't get a lot out during the holiday. I was driving and traveling and visiting family and friends, and I hope people, sort of were able to take that same time too. Publishing videos the week of Thanksgiving is usually a losing proposition unless you go real heavy on, ooh, Black Friday and shopping and affiliate links. And I'm not that guy. I've never been good at it. I really don't like sort of posturing that kind of consumerism on a holiday that's supposed to be about family and together and being thankful and grateful for what you have. I fail. I fail hard on that kind of presentation. But moving forward, and especially as we get into the Christmas season, and Christmas is all about buying cool stuff and buying gifts for your family and friends, I'm going to try and just kind of contribute a few more updates, some like holiday themed videos. It's time to start talking about Die Hard as a Christmas movie again, because if you don't think Die Hard is a Christmas movie, you're objectively bad at movies. Because it is, and it's not only a Christmas movie, but it's one of the best Christmas films ever made. And I'm saying that unironically because it is awesome and it follows all of the themes and traditions of a really good Christmas story in a movie that happens to be an exciting action adventure. So that's the kind of stuff I'm going to spend a little time on. If you're on the Patreon, I really need your help because I am but one person and I can't keep up with every announcement and try every new game. And I want to do like I did last year. I want to do sort of a best of 2025 games for mobile. specifically games for Android. So obviously, a few of the things we've been talking about in emulation will get some special honorary recognitions, but I've got a list of games up on the Patreon right now, patreon.com/somegadgetguy. And I'm hoping that people can also fill in some gaps. What were some of your favorite games for mobile? Preferably ones that don't have really obnoxious monetization, lots of ads, gotcha mechanics, things like that. I really like to focus on premium games. But what were some of your favorite games that launched for Android in 2025? And I'll put that up together as either a part of the podcast in a week or two, or as its own little standalone mini award video like I did last year. Last year, my game of the year was Balatro. I really felt like that was the best. The best version of Balatro was not on PC. It launched first on PC, and I think it went to consoles. The best version of Balatro was mobile. Playing it on a little touchscreen, playing it on a tablet was the best way to play Balatro, and it launched in the same year as the PC version. That's the way I want developers to do it. And I think if we give them good recognition for putting good ports out on Android, we'll get better games on Android. Or if we don't, then we'll just go to emulation. Good times. So, Ross Safi nailed it. Yippee-ki-yay, Santa Claus. Love it. So everybody, we're running headlong. We're deep. This is the holiday season. We're getting ready. We're doing it. We're wrapping up 2025. We're all anxious about what's gonna come in 2026. But I'm glad to have you all along for the ride. I think we're going to be in for some fun conversations. There's going to be some really great stuff to check out. Lots of crankiness. I don't think we're escaping the crankiness as we get through this year and look to the next. I think, if anything, it's going to be even more critical than where we've been for the last 2 years, which I already felt were pretty critical years for technology and consumer electronics. So I'm glad to have you along for the ride. And I hope just over this next month, as I'm putting these podcasts together and I'm shooting videos and publishing content, that you are taking some time to eat some good food and to spend time with people you care about and who care about you. I know we arbitrarily decided that this was the end of the year and that's when we reflect. But you know what? Any excuse is a good excuse to have a party or plan a get together or just hang out, just chat, just reconnect with people that we care about. Catch you back here next week for another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. Be safe, take care of yourself so that you can keep being the amazing tech neighbor your family and friends need you to be. And during the holidays, that's even more critically important because they need your help. You might need to reset Auntie's router and fix Uncle's smart TV, and you're the nerd to do it. So thank you for being that nerd. And I'll catch you back here next week for another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. Be safe, take care. I love you all, and I'll catch you back.